If you could live green, would you? I'm Nick Fedorov, host of Things Green, where we introduce nuggets of green lifestyle from gardening, upcycling, answering your questions, sustainability, even discussing environmental issues. You can become more confident in making the right decisions for you and your family. So come along as we are Things Green.
Things Green is brought to you in part by
Southland Sod Farms, creators of genuine marathon sod. Pre-grown tall fescue grass. More information at sod.com.
Dram Garden Products, makers of watering tools since the 1940s. Committed to saving water with handheld tools, hoses, and water wands. More information at dram.com.
And that's the way you keep your plants moist. Hi, I'm inviting you to come down to one of the free home shows where I give free garden talks. All you have to do is go to my website, thingsgreen.com, to see when the dates and the venues are at.
Being out in the yard and garden has never been so fun. With playful laser cut, garden, pet, and yard signs. More information at InStyleSteel.com.
John Delmatoff Backhoe Service has been serving Southern California for over 22 years and is a proud supporter of Things Green.
Buying it seemed like such a good idea at the time, but it's just not working for you anymore. No worries, we'll take it. Habitat for Humanity Restore. Donate today to help people in your community build strength, stability, and self-reliance.
You ever see one of these before? This right here is a popcorn maker. It's for an open fire camping situation. I actually had this when I was a little boy, and now I take it and I use it to make popcorn for myself or for my grandkids or whatever the case is. And you put it over the fire like this, and you have to constantly keep it moving. And when you keep it moving, before you know it, you're going to get popcorn. I was actually called out here on a landscape consultation for a particular plant, and this is the one right here. Check it out. It is a very unusual kind of plant because it has several names. It's a Bocardnia, but we don't normally call it that. We usually call it a elephant foot palm because look how gnarly this is right here. Just kind of real crinkly looking like an elephant foot. That's kind of nice. And then if you work your way over here, this kind of looks like a ponytail. So we also call it a ponytail palm. And the interesting part about it, it's not a palm whatsoever. It's more related in the yucca family than anything. And this big bulbous area right here is known to carry a whole lot of moisture. So it's a very drought resistant kind of plant. It's actually native to western Mexico, right by the Gulf of Mexico there. And here in the United States, and actually all through Europe too, this plant is more of a house plant. You get a little bitty thing like this, you can keep it like that growing for years. It's really kind of cool. But if you take it outside and put it into the ground, like an alligator, when you put an alligator outside in a big area, it grows and grows and grows. Well, that right there tells us that it is it's something that grows nice and big. Now, typically, this thing right here only has the one little head up here. But if you have the plant when it's as small like this, and you're to do something very drastic to it, and that would be to get a knife and chop the top of it and really mutilate it, you can get 2 to 3 heads off of it and then put it in the ground and it'll grow that way. Now this right here, as I mentioned, if you keep it in the container, it stays a little bit on the smaller side. In the ground it'll get 15 feet tall. But right here, this is probably around, oh, maybe 8 feet. We have to account for the container itself. Now, what we're going to do here is something that is very necessary, and I'm going to show you why it's necessary, why we're going to do what we're going to do with this right now. See this? It's busting its britches. That's what it's doing. Oh, it's something else. So anyway, so this thing is busting up its container right here. I would assume it's been doing this for quite some time now. So what we're going to do is we're going to help it along, and we're going to repot it up. Now, the thing of it is that as we end up repotting this thing, we're going to use a different kind of container. We're not going to put it in the same kind. We're going to use a container that is actually a little bit on the fatter side, and it's squattier. So can you see the size difference there? So it's a little bit taller over here. It's smaller over here. And as you know, we're gonna actually take and we're gonna plant it, and we're gonna put our soil line up to about right here. So let's see what we can do with this. It's already busted up right there, and man, there's a lot of different ways of going about doing this. Let's see what happens if we can cut it by hand. If we can't cut this by hand, then we're going to need a power tool to help us out over here. So this right here is a saw that is usually used for drywall. Drywall is like a gypsum board material for when you do construction inside of a house you're using in your cutting stuff. So let's cut this up. We could do this because it's a plastic container. There we go. Okay, I'll tell you what, that was kind of tough to do, and I don't feel like putting all my muscle into this. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the heavy artillery out, and we're going to cut it up with a reciprocating saw. But in the meantime, I decided let's put some gloves on. It's always good to work with the gloves anyhow. So here we have two different kind of gloves. We have deerskin gloves and goatskin gloves. These, of course, have seen some nice wear and tear on there, and these are brand new. So I'm gonna christen those someplace else at another time. So we'll put these on. I like, there's all kinds of different types of leather that's out there for gloves. If you use cowhide, it's a real rigid, thick kind of leather. You go with the deer and the goat, it's a softer, supple kind of a leather. There's also pig. I don't do pig, so I don't even wear that. So we're not going to go there. All right, so what we're going to do is let's start cutting this up in little itty bitty pieces and see how easy it is going to take this thing out. Now, I'm not going to worry a whole lot about cutting up the root system, because when I'm going to take it and move it over there, it doesn't matter, because we're going to have to be doing some chopping and dicing and slicing anyhow. Now you're going to have to identify what kind of container that you have. If this was a what do you call it? A porcelain container or a clay container, you'd never be able to do that. You have to get a mallet out and just bust it all up. But this is a plastic one. And hopefully, once I cut it up like this, we'll be able to slice it. It'll come out a lot easier. Now, this obviously was not wet. They didn't water this for a while. I said it's a pretty drought-resistant plant. And I am cutting some of the roots, and that's okay. Pretty rugged plant here. All right, let's see if this will bust out. Oh yeah, that's coming out. Look at that, it's beautiful. Beautiful, look at this massive root here. Woo! That was something else. Man, look at this thing. It's beautiful, isn't it? But look at this massive root system that's in here. And this technically is not good for your plant because look how it's curling around. This is a girdling process. So by doing what we're doing over here, we're going to open it up quite a bit, as a matter of fact. In fact, I'm gonna have to take and measure this to see how far we wanna take this. So what I'm gonna do, let's get a shovel here. And we know that we wanna go, I'll turn it upside down. So that's about the length because we went from here down to there. So, wow, look at that. If I was to put this exactly the way it is, I think we would be okay. I think we are going to be okay. But instead, I'm going to kind of loosen these roots up first. Now, typically when we're doing this kind of root pruning, the rule is whatever you take off on the bottom, in other words, the roots, you should take off on the top. So what do we got to do here is just remove them like this, and whatever you have on top, that's what you're going to have on the bottom. Now, I don't want to take all this off. It's going to be a real temptation to do so. But we just kind of want to loosen them, air them out. Some of the roots are going to come out. Look at this. Don't worry about that. We're going to loosen it up, and then hopefully what will happen is that these are going to take off. I think that's more than enough to take off. Like I said, it's a plant that likes to be constricted, or could be constricted. So we're going to measure it again. I can go down as far as maybe right about right here or so. Yeah, about right here. I think that'll be good. So we're going to measure this. Okay, so we're going to go in here. That's about it. Look at that. That's downtown, man. I like that. You remember what this is called? This is called a D-handle shovel. Why? Because it has a handle, and if you look, it looks like the letter D. Isn't that kind of cool? And of course, it's there to use as a handle itself. Okay, so, all right, maybe a little bit more. I like the looseness of it. You got to remember, we sliced down the side over here too, so I don't want to be disturbed too much. Okay, now what I did is I created kind of a custom mix over here, and this mix, I don't want to step on my plant quite yet. This mix is a rich, well-draining soil. It's a super, super good potting mix. And then what I did is I added sand